Hey guys, AlphaSeagull here. I'm still working on a video right now about negation and defense and that kind of stuff because I think the community is sorely lacking information on that. There's a lot of misinformation about defense going on. Um, but before I finish with that, there's a more relevant matter at hand, which is a very controversial update, which is the new Scadutree changes, right? So if you notice, they buffed a lot of, pretty much all. Yeah, they buffed all the blessings for the Shadow Tree, right? So no matter where you're at, you are slightly stronger than you were before. Now, I'm not here to talk about my opinion on this or whether or not I agree with the patch, right? If you want that information on record, I think they should have waited a little longer before doing this. I think they should have let the community cook. They should have let the community figure out their own solutions for a little bit longer before deciding to do this, right? I think it's perfectly fine if they decided to do this. I don't actually care. It doesn't affect me at all. This isn't coming from a place of like try hard or like pride perspective. After all, I mean, if you've seen me on my channel, I am the absolute opposite of a tryhard. If anything, I'm a tryhard for not playing the game. Uh, I've been having Mimicked here just solo all the bosses for me. So, I mean, if you've seen my latest upload, I just beat Bale in 2 tries with just Mimicked here solo, like soloing the whole fight. And that was after the patch, right? I don't know if it was going to be harder before the patch. It's difficult to say for sure. But well, actually, I'm not even sure if these affect Mimic Tier. I mean, everyone says that they don't. I haven't actually been able to test it yet. Until Cheat Engine puts out, like Hexington puts out a version that allows me to change my blessing amount, I won't be able to test that for sure. But until then, who knows, right? But that's not going to be the main point we're talking about today. Whether you like or dislike the patch, that's entirely up to you, right? Not everyone likes the patch, that's okay. Not everyone dislikes the patch, that's okay too, right? What I am going to talk about today is the math, right? What the actual numbers mean, because there's a lot of misinformation going on about what those numbers mean, right? So a lot of people are saying the blanket statement that it's just 5%, right? You got 2 times here, 2.5 or 2.05, and it's like, oh, it's just 5%. It's not noticeable. You're never gonna see that. It's placebo amounts of buff, right? It's not gonna make a difference. That is objectively not true. And that's what today's video is about. Regardless of what your opinion is, if you think it's not noticeable, you are just mathematically wrong about this. And here's why. So first of all, what do I know about the math of this game, right? So there's a handful of tutorials about how to do like specific like buff tutorials, like, oh yeah, do this setup and get to 2400% damage, right? Or like Leviathan's general buff videos, and these videos are good, right? They're very good, but as far as I know, there's only 2 thorough extensive tutorials about the math and all of the rules regarding buff stacking, right? There's only 2 tutorials like that on YouTube, and they're both mine. They're both mine. I also, this isn't my number. This is somebody else's damage number, but I also used to hold the world record for the highest damage number in Elden Ring. So let's do highest damage Elden Ring. So current world record, assuming it shows it. Yeah, there we go. Current world record is just over 1 million, right? I believe it'll be higher now if someone tries. I'm not going to bother trying, at least for a while, unless I get bored one day. Because you need friends to do that, and I don't have friends. Just kidding. But I believe it can go higher now with the new buffs. But yeah, this is a modification of a strat that I started using, right? So if I Google, this is a real damage number, Here we go. So that's my video, 500,000 views. I think this is the first real time that anyone's ever like broken the 6-figure number for a single hit, right? I mean, they might have broken it for Common Azure in the past. I'm not 100% sure on that, but you know, the current world record is just my strat, but with more buffs, right? Now, obviously, I don't own a strat. I don't think anyone can own a build, but I definitely know what I'm talking about as far as math goes. That's really the only point I'm making here. So now that I've established what I know, right? Let's talk about the numbers themselves, because the numbers can be a little bit misleading if you just look at the wiki, right? So the wiki, it shows a 15% difference here, but what does 15 mean actually? Like, because 15 is not always 15, and I get how that sounds crazy to say that, but in this case, it's actually true, right? So this is the number of blessings you have, right? And then this is before the patch, your damage and effective HP. Now, effective HP means there's a change to negation to where it's as if you had this much HP, right? So if your negation is increased by 4.8%, then that means your HP is effectively 5% higher, right? And then the same goes for 9.1 to 1, 13 to 15, 16 to 20, right? Etc., right? And the way that the scatter trees are balanced is that they use this multiplier for damage, and then they do 1 divided by that to figure out what your negation is going to be, right? So 1 divided by the number, so 1 minus 1 divided by that number is you get the negation, right? Because negation stacks multiplicatively, so that's how they have to calculate this to figure that out. That way, even though it technically doesn't look equal, like obviously these numbers are not the same. Even though it doesn't look equal, in practicality, it is equal, right? Now, I'm going to go more in depth on that in terms of my damage negation video, which I'm still working on, but, that's your little sneak peek. So these are the numbers after the patch for the same things, for both your damage and your effective HP. And then so this is your negation after the patch with that, right? Now, here's the amount that each stat changed, right? So going from this to this, what is the change from this to this, right? Because it's not exactly 5%, because you already had 5% to begin with. It's just 5% more than you had previously. So in this case, it's 4.8%. It's 1.1 divided by 1.05 minus 1, so you get 4.8% increase, right? And then same here, you get 9, 8, 8. Now, if you notice, none of these numbers are 5. And the people who said 5%, they're just looking here and here, and they're forgetting all of these, right? Because most of the chunks of the important stuff happens in the middle, right? So you got 4, 9, 8, 8, 8, 9, 11, 10, 10, 10, 12, 15, 13, 11, 9, 8, 6. So it doesn't actually start being 5 until 18. 1 through 18. That's just talking about damage alone, right? That's if you're talking about one of the stats, damage or effective HP, right? And then a lot of people forget that when you really think about it, damage and HP stack multiplicatively in a way, indirectly, right? So let's say you deal on average 100 damage per second. And let's say that you survive for 10 seconds in a fight. That means you're going to deal, on average, 1,000 damage before you die, right? Now let's say you double that. You deal 200 damage per second, and you last for 10 seconds. That means you're going to deal 2,000 damage before you die, right? But now let's say you also double the amount of time you're alive, right? By having more defense, right? Let's say you have double the defense, so you last for 20 seconds instead of 10, right? So you deal 200 damage per second on average. You last 20 seconds instead of 10. That means you're going to deal 4,000 damage before you die. 4,000 instead of 2,000 or 1,000, right? And that means the only way you can get that number without it being 3,000 is if they stack multiplicatively. So in reality, it's not going to be that clean of an answer, but the differences will be there. Like if you are healing, like if you get hit and you have less than let's say you have 7 archeries, right? And let's say you have less than 10% of your health left, and you know you live with less than 10% of your health at any point in a boss fight, then that means that this patch is the reason you lived, right? If you heal and you don't overheal your health by 11% every single time that you heal, that means you have more health after the patch than you did before. Because keep in mind, this is affecting negation. It's effective health, not real health. So every hit point matters more. So that means your healing is also multiplied by these numbers, indirectly, of course, but they're multiplied, right? If your damage, if your health is 50% higher, but not actually, then whatever healing you're going to get is going to matter 50% more. And so what I'm trying to say here is that there's a lot of situations in a single fight where this 10, 12, 15% is going to help you in terms of health, right? And then on top of all that, let's say you barely beat a fight before you die, right? Like you were probably going to die in the next 5 seconds if you didn't beat the boss right then. That is a situation where this would have helped you in terms of damage, right? If you were already dealing 91% of the boss's health before, and that 91 changed from 100 after the patch, that means you killed the boss, but you wouldn't have killed the boss in the previous patch, right? So these combine together, in theory, on average, to become these final numbers here. So you have 19%, 18, 17, 16, 19. This is the multiplicative values of these effects, right? And if you look here, 12, you have 33%. That means on average you were 33% stronger after the patch if you have 12 Scadutree blessings. And it's like, that's not 5%. It's not anywhere near 5%. In fact, that is as if you had a golden vow active 24/7 throughout the entire DLC, right? Which is it's not a make or break your entire playstyle kind of change, but it is a change that you will notice, right? Even if you don't see it, even if you can't visibly see the differences, the numbers are there, and it will affect your statistical likelihood of beating a boss, right? Especially for someone who does something like Mimic Tier. Again, I don't know if they affect Mimic Tiers, because I don't know if Scadutree blessings affect Mimic Tiers at all, but it's there, right? It is going to affect you. It's not 5%, right? And then of course it's also like, on top of the fact that it's not even 5%, a lot of people are arguing, oh, it doesn't matter, or like, oh, it's optional, you don't have to pick them up. But that's not a really good argument, because you can't unget the ones you had already, right? Like I currently have 10 Scadutree blessings. Before, I was given 50%, right? Now I'm given 65. If I had the choice to go back to 7 Scadutrees to meet the original multiplier, I would choose to do that, because I wanted my Mimic to have the same level of integrity as it used to, right? Now it's as if I went to 13. You know what I mean? Big difference between 10 and 13 here. And that's just, yeah. I mean, again, it's up to you if you dislike or like the change. I'm not going to rain on your parade if you enjoy the fact that your stuff has been buffed. I appreciate that, right? All power to you. All I'm saying is, if you want to argue that this change doesn't matter or it doesn't affect people, you are objectively wrong here, because it does affect a lot of people, and it would affect them a lot less if they could choose to go back. Like if they could, if there was like a scaler that lets you change how much Scadutree blessings that you have active, but there isn't one, right? As of the current patch, I'm just 10% stronger than I used to be. Well, 21% stronger than I used to be. And there's nothing that's I'm allowed to do about that. Other than not get more, which I wasn't going to get more anyway. But or at least I wasn't before Bale. I don't I don't know if there's any difficult boss fights left. Yeah, left. Bleh. I don't know if there's any difficult boss fights left in the DLC. I know I already beat one of the Death Knights. I don't know if I remember correctly. There's another one, so I might beat the other Death Knight. I might beat the Madness person. I haven't beaten that person yet. I don't know. I'll just keep exploring for now, leaving myself a 10 unless I absolutely have to upgrade. But or until Cheat Engine decides to have an option for that, so I can just do the tests with the thing to even see if it matters. But until then, that's been about it for today's video. I get that this wasn't really edited at all, but you know, it's there. So I'll see you guys next time. Next video, or next big video. I still plan on uploading the Radon Mimic Tier video, but next big video will be about defense, and I think you guys are going to have a lot of fun with it. So I'll see you guys next time.